You don't fall apart all the time, just often enough to start wondering if something's wrong with you. A canceled plan, a harsh tone, one unexpected comment at the wrong time. And suddenly, your chest is tight, your thoughts are blurry, and you're spiraling into a version of yourself you swore you'd outgrown. You try to stay calm. You tell yourself you're overreacting. But your body doesn't listen. Your mind doesn't care. The pressure just keeps rising until you shut down, blow up, or quietly disappear from yourself again. And here's the worst part. You weren't even asking for life to be easy. Just survivable, manageable. But it still feels like you're one inconvenience away from emotional collapse. In today's episode of the Unsaid Podcast, we're going to talk about why you break so easily and what it actually means to become anti-fragile. Not tough, not numb, not hyper-disciplined, but emotionally anti-fragile, the kind of person who gets hit and somehow gets clearer, deeper, softer, stronger. Because this isn't about learning how to not feel. It's about learning how to not shatter when you do. Here's the strange thing. You look fragile, but that's not the whole story. What people don't see is how long you've been holding the line. How many times you've silenced your needs, swallowed your reactions, smiled while your insides were unraveling, just to keep the peace, just to not be too much. You became the emotionally efficient one, the one who doesn't escalate, doesn't blame, doesn't lose it, the one who knows better. And it worked, for a while. That emotional control, it protected you from chaos, from rejection, from the unbearable mess of being fully human in front of other people. But now, it's killing your capacity to bend. You've been so busy staying composed that you never learned how to break without falling apart. So when life inevitably presses, you don't stretch, you snap. And each time, you wonder, why does it still hurt this much? Why am I not past this? But it's not about being weak. It's about being over-armored. You built yourself to endure, not to adapt. And the truth is, you can't become anti-fragile by bracing harder. You become anti-fragile by feeling safer to break. You didn't used to be this breakable. There were days, maybe years, when you could handle more. Bigger stress, heavier loss, whole chapters of your life collapsing, and somehow, you still showed up, still functioned, still pushed through. But now it's the smallest things that take you down. A missed message, a tight deadline, a quiet disappointment. And suddenly, your whole body feels like it's short-circuiting. You go from fine to defeated in seconds. And it makes no sense to anyone, not even to you. It was just a small thing. Why does it feel like the end of everything? But here's what they don't see. It's not about that one thing. It's about everything that came before it. Because you've been holding the weight for so long, without rest, without release, without being held, that now, even a single drop makes the whole system overflow. It's not that you're overreacting. It's that your system is overloaded. You've been strong for too long, and strength, when it has nowhere to go, turns into pressure, and pressure turns into collapse. So when that little thing goes wrong, that text, that task, that awkward moment, your body reads it like it's the final straw. Because maybe it is. Maybe you've used up every ounce of quiet resilience you had. Maybe what looks like fragility is just exhausted survival. And that's what no one tells you. That sometimes what breaks you now is not the weight of the present. It's the backlog of everything you never had time, space, or safety to fall apart from before. Here's what most people don't realize. Your nervous system doesn't reset just because the crisis is over. It stores everything. Even the things you told yourself didn't matter. Especially the things you didn't feel allowed to fall apart over. See, your brain has this system, like a silent emergency log, that keeps track of every moment you had to be strong instead of scared. Every time you swallowed grief, minimized your pain, held it together when you wanted to scream. And it remembers. Not always in words, but in tension, in fatigue, in that constant edge of alertness you can't explain. So when something small happens now, a rejection, a delay, a perceived failure, your system doesn't see it as small. It stacks it. It adds it to the backlog. And suddenly, your body reacts like the whole world is collapsing because internally, it kind of is. Because your system isn't just reacting to now, it's reacting to everything it never got to complete. Here's the neuropsychology of it, simple and real. Your stress response, your fight-flight-freeze system, was built for short-term danger. It's meant to activate, help you survive, and then switch off. But in modern life, most of your dangers aren't lions. They're emails, expectations, micro-rejections, shame, loneliness. And those things, they don't resolve the way your body was built for. You can't fight an awkward silence. You can't flee from a partner's indifference. You can't freeze your way out of burnout. So your body gets stuck, half alert, half defeated. Not in crisis, but not safe either. And when that state becomes chronic, your baseline changes. You live on a thread. Your capacity shrinks. Not because you're weak, but because your system never got to finish what it started. And this is why a text can ruin your whole day. Why a small failure can feel like a personal apocalypse. It's not that you're overreacting, it's that your body is overdue. And this is the tragedy no one talks about. You don't break down because you're fragile. You break down because you were never given a place to break safely before. So what do? You try to push through it. You minimize it. You tell yourself, it's not that bad, I should be over this by now. You add shame to the weight. And still, you can't seem to move forward. And then the loop begins. You get triggered by something small. You shut down, or explode, or numb out. You hate yourself for reacting that way. And then you promise, next time, I'll be stronger. But next time comes. And the same thing happens again. Why? Because you're not healing. You're performing resilience. You're trying to think your way out of a nervous system response, and that never works. You try to journal, meditate, self-talk your way into calm, but your body doesn't speak logic. It speaks experience. It asks, are we safe yet? And if the answer is no, if you're still suppressing, avoiding, punishing yourself, it stays in defense mode. So even your healing becomes part of the performance. Another thing to do right. Another way to prove you're better. And this is the cruelest part of the loop. The more self-aware you are, the more shame you feel for still struggling. You know the psychology. You've read the books. You understand the patterns. So why can't you fix it? Because awareness without safety isn't healing. It's just watching yourself drown and blaming your inability to swim. You weren't weak. You were wired to survive a world that never gave you the room to feel what you felt. You were taught, maybe not in words, but in tone, in silence, in the way people flinched when you showed too much, that your pain had to be hidden to be loved. So you learned to shrink it, to silence it, to be palatable instead of present. But pain doesn't disappear just because you downplay it. It just waits. And every time you dismiss what hurts you, your system hears one thing. You're on your own again. So of course you break down. Of course you fall apart when little things go wrong. You were never given the space to fall apart when big things did. You didn't lack strength. You lacked repair. And the truth is, being anti-fragile isn't about being unfazed. It's about having the capacity to come back to yourself after you've shattered. Not pretending it didn't hurt, not rushing to recover, but knowing, deep in your bones, that you can hold what you feel and still rebuild. You don't need to be tougher. You need to be allowed to be tender and still be safe. You don't become anti-fragile by toughening up. You become anti-fragile by relearning how to recover. Not with a morning routine, not with a vision board, not by screaming affirmations into the mirror, but with something simpler, quieter, like letting yourself fully feel something small and survive it. Here's where it starts. Next time something stings, don't analyze it. Don't fix it. Just name it out loud. I feel stupid. I feel left out. This really hurt. That moment, that gentle naming, tells your body, I'm not abandoning you this time. And that's the shift. You stop trying to avoid collapse and start building trust that you can come back from it. Because anti-fragility isn't about force. It's about fluidity. It's not, I don't break. It's, I break, and I know how to return. And that return doesn't have to be heroic. Just saying what you feel out loud is enough to start, not in your head, not silently. Actually saying it with your voice. Because here's what the science says. When you name an emotion out loud, your brain changes. The part that panics quiets down. The part that helps you stay present turns back on. It's called affect labeling, and it works like this. Instead of your body drowning in a vague, overwhelming feeling, you give it a name. And once it has a name, it has an edge. It has boundaries. Your system says, oh, I know what this is. I can handle this. It's not about making the feeling go away. It's about staying with it just long enough for your body to realize, this isn't danger. This is sadness. This isn't failure. This is shame. This isn't weakness. This is grief. And when your body knows what it's feeling, it doesn't have to fight it. That's the shift. Not more strength. Just less war inside yourself. And that's where anti-fragility begins. Talking about your emotions out loud is one practice. Think of these like training reps for your emotional flexibility. Here are a few more. Small, unexpected ways to train your system to feel, to recover, and to keep moving forward without collapsing. 1. Do something imperfect on purpose. Send the message with a typo. Speak up before your point is fully formed. Post the idea you haven't polished. And then stay in your body as the discomfort rises. Not to prove you don't care, but to teach your nervous system. I don't need to be perfect to be safe. 2. Set a timer. Don't win. Just stay. Pick something you usually avoid because you're scared you'll fail. Set a timer for 10 minutes. Try it. Badly, inconsistently, awkwardly. And when the timer ends, stop. The goal isn't to finish. It's to stay in the process without collapsing into shame. 3. Label what's happening as a rep, not a result. Start telling yourself, this is a rep, not a failure, not a test. Just one repetition of learning how to be in discomfort and keep going. Because anti-fragility isn't about learning to win. It's about learning how to stay in motion when things don't go your way. You're not building discipline. You're building tolerance. For failure, for emotion, for staying in the room with your own humanity. And that's what makes the difference. Not how hard you try, but how gently you keep showing up when it didn't work the first time. That's the kind of strength that lasts. You know that thing where someone asks how you're doing, and you say, I'm good, so automatically you almost believe it? But inside, it's like you're quietly holding together 100 little pieces, hoping no one notices the cracks. Yeah, that feeling. That doesn't make you dramatic or fragile. It means you've been strong in ways most people never see. And if this hits something real, even just one sentence, I'd love to hear it, not for numbers, just to know it reached someone who needed it. I spend hours shaping these words, hoping they land somewhere that matters. So drop your moment below. And if this gave you something, there's more waiting in the other episodes. Same care, same heart, hugs, kisses, and all the strength and softness you need in whatever mix feels right today. See you in the next one.